I've decided to live with my mom at our place. Her moving stuff will arrive on Saturday, so please take care of it for me.
Without any warning, I received a sudden call from my husband. He had never discussed living with his mother with me. I haven't heard anything about this. It's troubling to suddenly talk about living together. The spare room is like a storage space. What are you planning to do with it? Besides, today is Tuesday, right? I won't have any days off until Saturday, so I can't clean the room. When I said that, he responded,
It's okay, it can stay as it is. That's the situation, so please take care of it. I'll come over with my mom on Sunday, so please take care of everything.
My husband was making decisions on his own. I felt something cool off within me. If my husband can decide on something as important as living together without consulting me, then I should be able to make important decisions on my own as well. Okay, got it. I replied and hung up the phone. My name is Sarah. I live with my husband, Jeff, who was my classmate in junior high school. After graduating from college, I worked in sales at an IT company. I had lost my father to illness when I was young and lived with my mother ever since. My mother worked at a small company during the day and did piecework at home at night. I never felt any different from anyone else for being from a single-parent family. I was allowed to take lessons and advance my education just like everyone else. After graduating from college and becoming a working adult, I wanted my mother, who had worked tirelessly for my sake, to start living for herself. In my sales job at an IT company, specialized technical knowledge and sales skills as well as building trust with clients became crucial. I studied hard, sparing no time for sleep, and gradually I started to gain trust from our clients. Now I am among the top performers in sales. My salary is directly tied to my sales performance, so it's a great motivator for me to do well. Even though I often don't have time for lunch due to my busy schedule, the effort pays off, which boosts my motivation. I reunited with my husband on one such busy day. I had a client visit scheduled for the afternoon and arrived a bit early, so I was enjoying a takeout cafe latte in the park, watching children play, and spending a relaxed moment on a bench. It had been a while since I had such unoccupied time. While I was lost in thought, someone suddenly spoke to me.
Excuse me, are you Sarah? I'm sorry if I'm mistaken.
I knew he knew my name, but I couldn't remember him immediately. Yes, that's me. I felt it was rude not to remember, so I responded vaguely.
I thought so. You haven't changed at all.
The man wearing a delivery company uniform spoke to me in a very friendly manner.
It's me. We were in the same junior high school class. Don't you remember? I moved, but I'm Jeff, your classmate.
Jeff from junior high school? He's the Jeff who moved? He was bright, good at sports, and popular in class. Jeff, it's been a long time. I didn't recognize you at all.
You haven't changed a bit, Sarah. Still forgetful as ever.
Seeing his unchanged expression brought back a wave of nostalgia. Suddenly I checked the time and realized I was close to my appointment. Oh, sorry, I have work. I have to go now. As I got up from the bench, he stopped me.
Sarah, could you give me your contact information? Let's go out for a meal sometime.
I was surprised, but agreed, and we exchanged contact information. Then I hurried off to my client. After that, we went out for meals several times, and perhaps due to nostalgia, we naturally grew closer, and it didn't take long before we started talking about marriage. I was very, very nervous the first time I met his parents. Jeff's family consisted of his father, David, who worked as a company employee, his mother, Joanne, who was a homemaker, and Jeff himself. After introductions and greetings, I said, "These are sweets from near my workplace. I hope you like it," and handed over a gift. His mother frowned and said, "We all don't like sweets here. We wouldn't eat this." I immediately apologized for my lack of consideration. I should have asked first. I apologize. However, inside I was angry at Jeff for not telling me anything when I consulted him. A small unease remained in my heart. Then we moved to the living room and talked about various topics, how Jeff and I met, our university days, and my current job. His father was very considerate, nodding along and asking questions. The conversation turned to my family, and I mentioned living with my mother and that my father had died from an illness when I was young. His mother's expression changed. "Sarah, are you from a household with only one parent?" she asked with a stern face. Yes, that's right. Her response was, my son's wife was raised in a family without a dad. I would have preferred someone from a normal family. Did you know that kids who grow up with just one parent can struggle with their personality or mental health? It's really sad because they don't have the same love and support as kids with both parents, which can make it tough for them to settle down. It was not something she should have said in front of me. I didn't know how to respond and looked at Jeff, but he was looking outside pretending not to hear. That he wouldn't help me in such a situation. I mustered all my strength and said to his mother, my mother raised me with love. I have never felt disadvantaged because we were a single-parent family. I said it desperately, feeling tears welling up in my eyes.
Joanne, that's quite rude. That's being biased.
Then his father stepped in to mediate.
Even families with both parents can lack love. Sarah has grown into such a fine young woman. What problem could there possibly be?
He gave his wife a stern talking to.
Besides, Sarah is a top salesperson at an IT company. Maybe she even earns quite a lot. Jeff needs to work hard too.
His dad made things less awkward. As we were leaving, he said to me,
Sarah, I'm on you and Jeff's side. There are all kinds of families, so just create your own form. You can always come to us if you're in trouble.
Those words meant so much to me. I had many worries about the future, but if his father said that, maybe things would work out. Jeff and I decided not to have a wedding ceremony. Instead, we arranged a dinner for Jeff's parents, my mother, and us. His father and my mother enjoyed a pleasant time throughout the meal. Joanne, who had hardly greeted me, said during the meal, actually, I would have preferred Jeff's wife to come from a normal family, not from a single-parent one. She continued, children from single-parent families often cling to money because they lack financial freedom. Right after she said that, David changed the subject.
Oh, does Sarah's mother like orange or other citrus fruits?
He ignored his wife's comment and spoke to my mother.
Yes, I love citrus fruits,
she answered in a cheerful way.
I have a friend in California who sends us a lot each year. I'll share some with you next time. Oh, that would be wonderful, thank you.
I was saved by his father's quick thinking. Amid the noise of the restaurant, my mother either didn't notice or pretended not to hear and said nothing. After the dinner, my mother and I walked back through the bustling streets together. Mom, thank you for today. You must be tired, right?
The food was delicious and I had a great time.
She says so, but as the car lights hit her face, she looked kind of lonely.
Sarah, you are my pride and joy. You've grown up to be so kind and admirable. There might be people who say various things, but it's okay. You just need to discuss and decide with Jeff. She might have heard what Joanne said. She probably thought it was best not to cause trouble at that moment for the sake of my marriage and pretended not to hear. I almost cried from her kindness, but smiled to hide my tears so as not to worry her more. A few days later, we completed our marriage registration and started our new life. We decided that Jeff would move into my larger apartment. Jeff was working in a physically demanding delivery job at a transportation company. After we started living together, I prepared hearty dinners to give him energy. As my work became busier with more overtime, making dinner became difficult, and Jeff naturally started to take over cooking dinner as if it were the most normal thing. He often finished household chores like cleaning and laundry by the time I got home. We never formally divided the chores. It just happened naturally. I felt very happy with this natural flow. I never thought Jeff would be so helpful around the house. It really makes me feel relieved. We'd be all set whenever we decide to have kids. Jeff replied, half jokingly, It's actually fun once you get into it. Maybe I should start learning about childcare soon.
I found him incredibly dependable. I thought back to what Jeff's father has said about finding our own way of life. On weekends, Jeff often went to his parents' house for meals. Even though he said it was to treat them, it usually meant me preparing something Jeff suggested because it would make his mother happy. This often involved expensive items like beef for steak or takeout from a popular Italian restaurant. I dreaded going to Jeff's parents' place because Joanne always poked her nose in our business and complained. Making Jeff cook? You don't know how to respect your husband because you only had your mother? Or, Jeff does the laundry too? I can't believe you let him wash even your underwear. It must be because you're from a single-parent family and lack common decency. Are you that desperate for money? Such comments were thrown at me freely, but David always stood up for me.
No, you shouldn't say things like that. You've never worked, have you? Working involves a lot of stress and consideration, especially in the IT industry, which is always evolving with new technologies and products. Sarah is working hard. We're eating such good meat thanks to her, right, Jeff? It wouldn't be the same with just you.
He always managed to lighten the mood. By the time we went home, I felt happier. But then the unexpected happened. While preparing for work one day, we received the news of David's passing. Jeff, who answered the phone, was pale and at a loss for words. I was in shock and disbelief. I regretted not being able to repay David for his kindness and realized I would no longer see his smiling face. Tears came out of nowhere and I couldn't stop them. After the funeral, worried about Joanne, who was now living alone, Jeff started visiting his parents' house more frequently. I joined him sometimes, but the constant criticisms about being from a single-parent family made my visits less frequent. On the other hand, Jeff began stopping by his parents' house after work and not coming home some days. On the rare occasions he did come home without notice, I hadn't prepared dinner. Influenced by his mother, he started mocking me for being raised by a single parent, saying things like,
"No dinner for your husband who's home after a long time? I guess this is what it means to be raised by a single parent. Now I understand what Mom meant."
Eventually, Jeff stopped coming home altogether. His parents' house and his workplace were about a 2-hour drive apart. Although he was worried about his mom, I was more concerned about how his commute and physically demanding job were impacting him. Then I realized it had been a month since we last saw each other. One day as I returned home, Jeff called.
"Sarah, how are you?"
"I'm fine. Aren't you tired, though?" After a long time, I heard his voice, and it sounded as energetic as always.
"Well, I am indeed tired from the current lifestyle. So about this Saturday, do you have any plans?"
"Saturday? No, I don't have any plans." I was naively wondering if we were going out somewhere after such a long time.
"My mom's stuff is being delivered, so could you take care of it? It's tough commuting from my parents' house, but Mom says she feels lonely on her own. I thought about it and figured that if Mom comes here, it would solve everything. So I decided we should live with my mom. Her moving boxes will arrive on Saturday, so please receive them."
This was the first I heard of any plans to live together. I haven't heard anything about this. It's troubling to suddenly talk about living together. The spare room is like a storage space. What are you planning to do with it? Besides, today is Tuesday, right? I can't clean the room by Saturday without any days off. When I said that, he replied,
It's okay. It can stay as it is. That's the plan, so please take care of it. My mom and I will come over on Sunday."
Jeff's okay often means it's not okay. Has he forgotten about the time he mentioned that to me before our marriage?
"My mom will be tired from the trip, so please unpack her things for her. I have a business trip this Friday and decided to do some sightseeing with a colleague, so I'll be back next Monday. I won't be back until then, so please take care of everything."
So you're leaving your mother's needs to me while you go sightseeing? I felt something cool inside me. If Jeff can decide something as important as living together without consulting me, then I should be able to make important decisions on my own too. Okay, got it. I replied and hung up the phone. Then on Saturday, when the moving boxes were to be delivered, the doorbell rang and I went to the door. The delivery man asked,
"We've got a delivery for you. Do you have a place to put it?"
"How many boxes are there?" The delivery man checked his list and confirmed the number.
"It looks like there are various sizes, but in total there are 100 boxes.
100 boxes? Isn't that a bit too much? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Yes, that's fine. Just put them anywhere you find space. After 2 delivery men managed to bring in all 100 boxes, I left the apartment. As I was walking, Jeff called me.
"Sarah, did my mom's stuff arrive?"
"Yeah, all 100 boxes. I had them brought inside." This is really irritating. He's always all about his mom. He's such a mama's boy.
100 boxes? Mom sure has a lot of stuff. Please unpack them for me. When Mom arrives tomorrow, I want her to be able to relax immediately. Make sure everything is ready for her.
Why do I have to do it? Sorry, Jeff. I moved out.
What?
He seemed not to understand. So I can't do the unpacking or anything else anymore.
What? What's my mom supposed to do then? She's old and can't do it all by herself. Do you think it's okay to do something so selfish? You can't even consider your husband's family because you're from a single-parent family, can't you?
His condescending tone started again, always bringing up being from a single-parent family. When did he become like this? You were the one who decided on your own that your mom should move here, right? So I decided on my own to move out. I didn't want anything to do with him or his mother anymore. About your mom's stuff, I think you don't need to worry about unpacking.
What do you mean?
He asked, sounding a bit panicked. I've canceled the lease on that apartment at the end of this month. So either way, you'll have to move out soon, right? Your salary won't cover the rent, will it?
Hey, cut it out. What's going on?
The decisiveness in my actions since hanging up the phone with my husband on Tuesday has been impressive, even to me. Immediately after the call, I phoned my mother to explain the situation, then requested quotes from moving companies online. The next day, I contacted my boss to take 3 days of paid leave. When the moving company came for an estimate, they gave me boxes and I scheduled the move for the earliest available date, which was Thursday afternoon due to the peak off season. I started packing right away. I've been in that apartment since I was single and I've tried not to gather too many things, but I still have a bunch of stuff. It seemed like the move was a great chance to get rid of some extra stuff. I packed it into the night, took a short nap, and resumed early in the morning. I somehow managed to finish packing by midday on the day of the move. The rest was up to the movers. On Friday, I called the real estate agent to proceed with the termination of my apartment lease by the end of the month. After I calmly explained my actions over the past few days, my husband was speechless. To add insult to injury, I continued. I'm actually on my way to my parents' house. The only things left in that apartment are your personal items you brought when we got married and 100 boxes that arrived today. I left the boxes unpacked, so you can just send them back. I can't deal with your mommy issues anymore. Being raised in a single-parent family, I must be an inadequate wife for you, right? As you wish, I'll grant you a divorce. Any further communication can go through my lawyer. I'm about to board the train now. Take care. Over the phone, my husband was shouting something, but I ignored it and hung up. Safely arriving at my mother's house, she welcomed me with a warm smile. The next day, enjoying a late breakfast with my mother, the doorbell rang. With a sinking feeling, I answered it to find my husband pleading through the door.
Sarah, we were wrong. Please just hear us out.
Jeff was pounding on the door with such urgency that ignoring him might disturb the neighbors. Reluctantly, I opened the door, and there stood Jeff and his mother. Upon seeing me, his mother immediately started apologizing. Sarah, I'm so sorry for everything. As your mother-in-law, I'm begging you here, apologizing. Please don't talk about divorce. Following his mother's lead, Jeff also knelt down.
Without you, Sarah, we're finished. Please give us another chance.
Looking down at the two of them with a cold gaze, I said, No matter how much you apologize now, my decision won't change. After all the hurtful things said because I was raised by a single parent, you're just upset about losing my income, aren't you? I have nothing more to discuss with you. Please, leave. I stood my ground and said what I had to say, but they didn't budge an inch. If you keep hanging around here, I'm gonna have to call the cops. They scrambled away at the mention of the police. Not long after, our divorce was finalized. According to my lawyer, my ex-husband had angered his supervisor during training and was fired from his long-time part-time job. He made some mean comments about single-parent households without realizing his boss was a widower. With no job, he's been stalling on the divorce, but the possibility of a lawsuit pushed him to finally say yes. Joanne is apparently eager to find a proper family girl for her son, but a jobless man insisting on living with his mother is unlikely to attract many women. The story of our divorce has spread through my former in-laws' neighborhood, leaving them to live quietly and somewhat shamefully. Meanwhile, I've been focusing on my career while living with my mother, who I've worried greatly through this ordeal. Going forward, I want to take care of her. There's also another person I care deeply for, my ex-father-in-law, David. Every year on his death anniversary, I visit his grave with his favorite coffee, finding the surrounding area neglected by Jeff and Joanne. It's likely that they're too caught up in their own lives to care about it. So I clean around his grave, offer the coffee, and say a prayer quietly.
Starting today, my parents are moving in with us, Emily. It's for this reason we got a 5-bedroom house. If you understand, then hurry up and get ready, okay?
Tom, how could you decide this without telling me? Living together like this is definitely impossible.
It's common sense for a wife to take care of her husband's parents, right? That's how it's always been. Just keep doing as I say, and since I'm supporting you, don't complain.
On the day we moved into their new 5-bedroom house, Tom declared with a smirk, tossing unthinkable words at his wife, who was completely fed up, though she didn't show any surprise and responded in calm tone. You think it's a wife's job to take care of someone? Well, I'm not your wife anymore starting today. You'll have to find someone else to take care of you.
Huh? You're not my wife anymore starting today? Are you saying you want a divorce? You can't possibly do that. Don't lie. You're just a housewife who can't do anything.
Glancing around, several pedestrians were watching us, but Tom, unaware, was laughing loudly, enough for everyone to hear. He really doesn't understand anything. I already know everything, but it would be better if he realized on his own whether I'm incapable or not. He'll regret it for sure. I was chuckling to myself and quickly grabbed a piece of paper from my bag to shut down Tom's laughter and make him frown.
Emily, is this a joke? Do you even know what this paper is?
Huh? It's a divorce paper, isn't it? Obviously I know. Like I said, I'm quitting being your wife today. My name is already on it. You just need to sign it. I'll submit it, so you should be thankful, right?
Thankful? Are you crazy? There's no way we can divorce without discussing it. My parents are arriving at our new house soon. Instead of wasting time with this silly joke, start unpacking and preparing the meal.
Tom raised his voice super loud, scaring off everyone, and ripped up the divorce paper. My punch did the trick. Though Tom was intimidating me with his glare, this wasn't anything new. I had already made up my mind and reached into my bag once more. Really, what a waste of paper. Next time, make sure to sign this properly. I had a feeling things could get messy, so I had a stack of divorce papers all signed and good to go. When I smirked, Tom's face got even redder. It seems like he's really annoyed that I didn't go along with what he wanted, when I usually do.
What's with you? Just because you can live in the new house, you think you can celebrate? You know best what happens when you anger me, right? If you kneel and apologize now, I'll forgive you. If you refuse, then we're really getting a divorce. After all, I took you in when you had no relatives and no friends. Don't you feel any gratitude? What about it?
Tom glared at me with eyes sharp as knives. Seeing that, I couldn't help but laugh again. By the way, it's true that I have no relatives or friends. Both my parents are no longer around, and I'm not great at making friends, so I only really chat with a few work buddies and my old boss from my job before I got hitched.
It looks like you're not getting it by just reading. Come over. I'll show you in a way that you'll end up hating it.
My husband was trying to pull me into the new house by grabbing my shirt, but I stayed calm and kept smiling. Is it okay to do this? Won't it make your position worse? Look, your parents' car is here. Pointing a car waiting at the traffic lights in front of the new house, my husband quickly let go of my shirt. He clicked his tongue and gave me a nasty look, but went back to his usual grin when his parents came out.
Tom, something seemed off. Was there a problem? It looks like you were grabbing Emily. What were you doing? Actually, Emily says she doesn't want to live together, and she even started talking about divorce. Look, she even handed me a divorce paper. I guess it's a joke, but it really got to me.
Despite having looked furious just moments ago, my husband explained the situation nonchalantly, all smiles as if nothing had happened. He works in sales and is one of the top performers at his company. Everyone acknowledges him as an excellent employee. I've heard about his numerous accomplishments, which make his sales smile all the more convincing.
Emily, is it true that you don't want to live together? We don't want to force you. Could you tell us why, though? We heard from Tom that you suggested living together. We were so happy and even made preparations. And just to clarify, is there a mix-up? Don't worry, no hard feelings. Just let us know, alright?
As usual, my in-laws asked with kind smiles and words, wanting to understand how I felt. They have been very supportive since the beginning of our marriage, always being there for me as I struggle to express my feelings. I'm truly grateful. That's why I became scared. If I reveal everything, it would mean repaying their kindness with betrayal, but I have to make up my mind. It's for my sake as well as for my husband and my in-laws. Kyle and Jackie, I'm going to divorce Tom. Therefore, I can't live with you both. This isn't a joke, I'm serious.
Tom, what does this mean? Emily says she's serious. I can't believe she would lie. Please explain the situation so that it makes sense. No, Dad. Don't take her seriously. There's no way we're getting a divorce. Look, we even bought a new house. She's just mentally unstable because of the change in environment. Remember all those times when Emily was acting all over the place?
My husband flashed his fake sales smile, but Kyle wasn't buying it. I had to take a deep breath and get ready for whatever was coming next. If I don't speak up now, no one will be happy. That would certainly upset my in-laws. Let's go inside the new house for now. I'll continue talking there. All three nodded quietly, but my husband was exerting silent pressure with a look that said,
Don't say anything unnecessary.
We entered the new house and sat facing each other. My husband, me, and my in-laws. After taking a deep breath to steady myself, I began to state the facts. Tom hasn't mentioned anything about us living together. He's spreading lies about me, suggesting we move in together. He's been threatening me to take care of you guys. My in-laws, who had maintained their smiles to avoid making me anxious, visibly changed their expressions. They were clearly perplexed, which was understandable. Tom never revealed his true self to his parents and was dedicated to his work in taking care of his parents. It seemed impossible that Tom, who had always been a model son, could do such a thing, but it appeared they were beginning to sense that I wasn't lying. I glanced at Tom and he looked unhappy. Although he seemed to be thinking about something, I knew what he was up to. He was probably thinking about how to persuade his parents. While I was observing, Tom began to speak slowly, sounding apologetic.
I thought I had communicated about the living situation, but if it wasn't clear, then it's pointless. I'm sorry, Emily. I really am. But I haven't forced any caregiving onto you or threatened you to take care of my parents. I truly love you from the bottom of my heart. That's all I want you to understand.
Saying this, Tom apologized. The confusion among my in-laws grew as they struggled with who to believe. Anger was welling up in me, not just for deceiving me, but for continuously deceiving his parents. But lashing out in anger would not work with him. I knew all his words were lies. So, I took the next step. It's understandable that you both are shocked, but Tom is definitely lying. Allow me to prove that. Could you please look at this? I pulled a brown envelope from my bag and presented it to my in-laws. Inside the envelope were several documents and a bundle of photos. The moment they checked the contents, my in-laws' faces turned pale.
Are you saying Tom has been cheating? It can't be true, can it? Tom, what were you thinking?
Indeed, what I had shown them was a report of the affair and the evidence photos. I started to question things when Tom kept missing birthdays and anniversaries because of his work trips. So I decided to check his smartphone and computer and found messages that seemed to be from a woman. Moreover, when I followed him on this supposed work trip, I discovered it wasn't a work trip, but a romantic getaway instead. I thought about hiring a detective to gather evidence, but by then, I had already figured out who the other woman was. Once I knew the identity of his mistress, I decided to investigate on my own. Just as I was about to explain this, Tom interrupted me.
I'm not cheating. Maybe Emily followed someone who looks like me, or maybe she's fabricated this with Photoshop. Anyway, it's not me. Mom, Dad, I would never do such a thing like that. No, Tom, it's hard to believe immediately with all this evidence. I don't want to believe that you would cheat, but this is, well... The man in these photos is definitely you, Tom. It's unimaginable that Emily would make up lies like this. What are you both talking about? Please believe in what I say. I don't even recognize the woman in these photos, and most of this evidence must have been collected by Emily, right? She could just make things up. Look, Emily, tell them you were lying.
My husband continued to pile on lies and excuses, intending to deny everything thoroughly, but the more he struggled, the more effective my next move would be. This development was within my expectations. Tom, you really don't know the woman in the photos. You can't take back those words, you know.
Yes, I'm not lying. I don't know any such woman.
Before Tom could finish his sentence, the doorbell rang.
A visitor at our new house just after moving in?
Everyone was wondering about it, but I was the only one who didn't think it was a service person. My husband tried to change the subject, but I ignored him, went to the entrance to greet the visitor, and led her to the living room where everyone was. Immediately, my husband's face turned pale. My in-laws repeatedly looked back and forth between the photos and the visitor. Tom, I'll ask you again. Do you really not know the woman in the photo? Is she the same person right here?
Why is Catherine here? Don't tell me, Emily. You...
His eyes started nervously, and he began to sweat profusely as he showed his greatest agitation of the day. It's understandable, given that Catherine, his affair partner, was standing right in front of us, and I had invited her. In fact, I had Catherine wait near our new house. When I told my husband that I wouldn't live with him, there were a few bystanders around who were looking at us, including Catherine. She was positioned out of his sight, so he hadn't noticed her. It's confirmed, then. Tom has been lying. By the way, I know Catherine very well. She's a former colleague of mine. I'm not good at socializing, and my colleagues and boss were pretty much my only conversation partners. Catherine was one of those colleagues. Although I've left the company making her a former colleague, I knew her contact details and address. I conducted my own investigation into the affair without hiring a detective because I could easily follow Catherine, and I decided that hiring a detective was unnecessary. Also, Catherine had informed me about Tom's plans to push his parents' caregiving onto me. Before Tom purchased the 5-bedroom house, I was aware of his plans. He used to share everything with Catherine and looked down on me, but he probably never imagined that it would backfire in this way.
Catherine, why did you just show up like this? You know it would be bad if you came, right?
I was serious about marrying you, Tom. If you want to marry me to take care of your parents, I'd be happy to do so. That's why I came to tell your parents. Everyone except Catherine was dumbfounded, saying, "What are you talking about?" But Catherine was serious. It might seem insane, but it was a gesture of pure love for Tom. I got drawn to Catherine because she was so genuine, but I never guessed her innocence would hurt me in the end. Catherine's arrival had filled the new house with an awkward atmosphere, but it was my in-laws who changed it.
Tom, does this mean everything you said today was a lie? Do you understand what you have done? I'm disappointed in you, Tom. Apologize to Emily and take responsibility. Depending on your answer, we might disown you today. Disown me? Mom, please wait. Dad, let's calm down, okay?
The usually gentle and kind in-laws were so furious at their son that it looked like they were about to leap on him and start hitting him. They seemed like completely different people, not the calm ones who always listened patiently. I immediately noticed why they were angry. It was for my sake. Their kindness made them capable of feeling anger on behalf of others. Unlike Tom and Catherine, my in-laws could empathize and feel anger as if it were their own issue, and some of that anger was undoubtedly for the sake of their son. If they truly didn't care about someone, they wouldn't bother to get angry. They believed that their son would acknowledge his actions, apologize, and change his heart. Their hopes were easily crushed by Tom's next words.
Ugh, I'm tired of pretending. Now that everything's out, I don't care anymore. I guess I'll just divorce Emily, pay the alimony, and then remarry Catherine. Like you, Mom and Dad. Catherine says she'll live with you and take care of you.
At that moment, a sharp snap echoed through the new house. When I looked towards the sound, Jackie was trembling. It was the first time I had ever seen her raise her hand to anyone.
What are you even talking about? Do you not realize what you've done? Emily always said she was saved by you, Tom. She wanted to repay you. And what's this? You married her just to make her a slave and throw her away when you're done? Isn't that what family is all about? Mom and Dad, you were always too busy with work, leaving me to fend for myself, right? I chose the same sales job as you, Dad, thinking it was tough, but there's plenty of free time, enough even for affairs. Now, Mom, you quit your job and you just live off Dad. So don't lecture me, you parasites.
Tom hurled these nauseating words at his parents. My in-laws looked like they were about to strike him, but were frozen in place. They would never neglect him, but Tom felt that way. Perhaps my in-laws felt responsible for making their son feel lonely. Yet, I could never accept Tom. I knew I shouldn't as I prepared to say my last words to him. Insult me all you want, but don't go making your parents upset, okay? Just remember what goes around comes around, and when you're in a tough spot, it might be too late for help. Just a friendly warning.
Ugh, whatever. Are we done talking? Hey, Catherine, I'm hungry. Let's go grab some food. Oh, and before that, I need to sign these divorce papers. Emily, hand them over and I'll get them filed too.
Tom, is it really okay? Your parents said they might disown you.
It's fine. I have you, don't I? I can live without my parents. I tried to repay them by arranging a caregiver, but they just freak out. So forget it. They're idiots. Don't ever show your faces again.
Saying that, Tom forcefully dragged Catherine out of the new house. My in-laws tried to follow, but couldn't catch up as he quickly drove away, leaving them standing dumbfounded.
Emily, we will make sure our son takes responsibility. Could you please wait a little while? If our son turned out this way because of us, it means we are to blame for your suffering, so...
No, that's not right. Tom made his own decision. It's his fault. Also, please don't worry. Tom will surely regret his actions. It will happen naturally even if we do nothing. After conveying this, I said my goodbye to my in-laws, expressing my gratitude for their protection and apologizing for not being able to consult with them sooner and letting things come to this. It might have been the last time we'd see each other. A few days later, a call came before Tom. The voice on the other end was filled with a despair I had never heard before.
Emily, help me. Please. I seriously didn't know anything.
Huh? What you didn't know was that Catherine already had a husband, or that her husband was connected to the mafia, and now he's after you for taking Catherine?
Stop joking around. You knew all along? I didn't know anything. Why didn't you tell me? And it turns out Catherine's husband is a former boss from your company, right? You knew everything from the start?
Correct. During my investigation into your affair, I ran into my old boss, and when I told him about Catherine's affair, he was furious. It seems Catherine didn't even know that her husband was connected to the mafia. She fled and ended up meeting you, thinking you could protect her.
What? Catherine used me? No wonder I can't get in touch with her. This is ridiculous.
If you lie to others, expect to be lied to back. But whatever, it doesn't matter. You'll always be on the run now. As I coldly laid out the reality to my husband, the voice on the other end of the phone went silent, the line dead quiet. Perhaps he was recalling my words. What you do will come back to you, and it will be too late to ask for help when you need it. As he seemed completely deflated. Still, all he could do was desperately cling on.
I'm sorry. It was all my fault. I didn't mean to say such horrible things to you or my parents. I truly regret deceiving you. Emily, please, he's your old boss, right? If you speak to him, maybe something can be done, right?
Nothing can be done. People's feelings aren't that simple. Even if something could be done, I won't help you. I have only one wish, that you and Catherine fall into hell. Enjoy the worst life possible. Without waiting for a response, I hung up the phone and blocked him immediately. I could confirm any further details about my husband's life through my old boss, no problem. I intended to keep an eye on him until he fell into hell. He will probably cry to his parents, so I should keep a close eye on him. Later, Tom was forced to quit his job and vanished from his hometown. I heard from my old boss that even if he gets arrested, he will make sure Tom faces his responsibilities. It seems he intends to pursue him to the ends of the earth.
I'm not going to kill him, just going to settle things,
he said with a laugh, but his eyes weren't smiling at all, so I couldn't tell if he was serious or not. All I know now is that Tom cannot lead a decent life any longer. Unless Tom confronts himself and decides to change, it will be difficult for him to escape his hell. As for me, I moved to a small apartment and started living alone. However, I couldn't quite make a fresh start. Being divorced meant I was alone again. Even though I was prepared, I couldn't hide my loneliness. I hated being so stuck and not being able to change anything, just having the same boring days. But then, one day, When I happened to look outside the window, I saw a car parked there. The car parked outside was one I had seen almost every day. I couldn't help but rush out of the house and stand in front of it. The door opened and two friendly faces appeared.
Hey, Emily. Have you been well? Have you lost some weight? Are you eating properly?
Kyle, Jackie, why are you here?
Today's our wedding anniversary. We were just about to go out for dinner. Do you have time, Emily? We want you to come with us. That's why we came to pick you up.
Me? On your wedding anniversary? But Tom and I are divorced and I'm a stranger to you both now. As I murmured this, looking down, my in-laws smiled gently at me and said,
Legally, maybe, but to us, you're still our daughter. That's why we want our daughter to celebrate our anniversary with us. Like you, we don't have any parents either. We struggled a lot when we were younger, and unfortunately, that made Tom feel lonely too. We've decided we won't let our children feel lonely anymore. If you don't want to be our daughter, then as a friend is fine too. Emily, won't you stay with us?
At her words, Kyle nodded and smiled again. I couldn't see their faces clearly anymore as my eyes were filled with tears. How could I possibly refuse? I'm happy to be part of the celebration with you guys. Although Tom had changed, his parents remained the same throughout. My marriage might have failed, but meeting them was something irreplaceable. Several years later, I remarried and was blessed with children. I couldn't have imagined remarrying when I got divorced, but thanks to Kyle and Jackie, I was able to look forward. I can never fully express my gratitude. And thinking of them, I was on my way to the restaurant with my family. Today was my own wedding anniversary. In the same restaurant we visited that day, I cherished my happiness.
Shut up. Don't talk back to me when I'm the one feeding you. My husband shouting at me with a disgruntled face has become a daily occurrence. Before we were married, I was working. But I quit my job to become a homemaker in order to support him. Initially, he would express his appreciation, but over time, it became taken for granted. Don't just laze around, get on with the thorough cleaning of the whole house already. He probably hid his true self before we got married. He is always like that. A selfish man who only thinks about himself. Enduring his unreasonable words, I clean the study as he ordered. During the cleaning, I find something that seems out of place in this room. This is a wedding venue brochure, right? And there's even a filled-out divorce form. I couldn't comprehend why these items were here. For now, I take a deep breath. A filled-out divorce form means he's considering divorcing me, doesn't it? Moreover, this brochure. Does it mean he's already discussing such matters with someone else? As I slowly calm down while organizing my thoughts, anger towards my husband starts bubbling up. After all the daily condescension and being treated like a maid. To think he was making plans for his next life with another woman. The thought of how I was earnestly contemplating how to make things work with him until yesterday now seems ridiculous. What was my marriage all about? I've come to realize that enduring this life out of consideration for my husband is a waste of my life. And so, I come up with a plan using this chance. Using what I found in the studies drawer. I decide to start the biggest cleanup of my life, as my husband ordered. My name is Ashley. A 30-year-old homemaker. I married Nathan, who is 5 years older than me, 3 years ago, and we live together. Originally, I was a full-time employee at a major food company during my single years. But I quit my job to become a homemaker upon marrying Nathan, to support him. Nathan works for a small to medium-sized company. He was exceptionally talented. So he was promoted to a manager at an unusually young age and leads a busy life. I'm sorry for making you give up your job to be at home for me. I'll work hard at my job so that Ashley can live comfortably. Yes, it's okay. Don't worry about home and just do your best at work, Nathan. Initially, Nathan was considerate and grateful for my quitting my long-term job to start a family, showering me with words of appreciation. In return, I did my best to support my husband, preparing nutritious meals and keeping our home tidy. However, these peaceful days didn't last even a year. Gradually, Nathan began to take for granted that I was a homemaker. Started insulting me, hurling abusive words, and adopting a cold attitude. The dinner's the same old, isn't it? What do you even do all day at home? Are you taking me for granted? I'm sorry. No matter how much effort I put into dinner, Nathan would always find fault. And at times, he would throw the food away without eating it. If I tried to say anything back, he would get angry and shout at me. I became scared of Nathan shouting at me, eventually losing the ability to talk back. Can this be called a marriage? I repeatedly asked myself this question, but I never mustered the courage to take any action. The only solace was the time I spent with my in-laws. Although we live close by separately, our relationship is good. And they always show concern and offer support. Thank you for always doing your best for our son. Feel free to talk to us about anything. Hearing the kind words from my in-laws, I thought several times about discussing Nathan's behavior with them. But I was afraid it might spoil our relationship, so time just passed without me ever bringing it up. Now, 3 years into our marriage, Nathan's verbal abuse has only gotten worse. And my worries have deepened significantly. Hey, are you even cleaning the room properly? It's full of dust. How can I relax during my precious time off in such filth? Get it together. I'm sorry. I do clean every day, though. Quiet. I'm feeding you, so don't talk back. Don't laze around. Get on with the thorough cleaning of the whole house. Whenever he was home on holidays, Nathan would always yell at me like this. No matter how spotless I made the house, he was never satisfied. Reluctantly, I would always hustle in front of him, meticulously cleaning and tidying the whole house. Even seeing me do this, Nathan would just have a disgruntled look on his face, seemingly always dissatisfied with me. You're really not cut out to be a homemaker if you can't do anything without being told. Just clean up my study or something, whatever. With a huff, he said that as if throwing the words away, and left the house without saying where he was going. As I tidied his study as instructed, I felt saddened, wondering if the kind Nathan would ever return. The current Nathan only spews verbal abuse, making any conversation impossible. Even when I tried to argue back occasionally, my words were never acknowledged, leaving me feeling close to breaking. Then, one day, I received a message from my best friend, Kim, inviting me out for lunch after a long time. Kim has been my best friend since high school, and I have consulted with her about everything from work to private matters. I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about Nathan at length. However, unexpectedly, Kim brought up the topic of my husband. You know, Ashley, actually, a few days ago, I saw Nathan at my workplace. Kim works at a wedding venue, and she witnessed Nathan coming in with a young woman a few days ago. I was shocked by Kim's words. But then I remembered seeing something like a brochure when I cleaned Nathan's study a few days ago. At that time, I thought it was just some flyer and didn't pay much attention to it. But now I recall it seemed to have the name of the wedding venue where Kim works. Seeing my shocked and pained expression, Kim gently held my hands and looked straight into my eyes. Ashley, if there's anything, I'm here to help you with anything, so please feel free to talk to me. Thank you, Kim. Yes, you're right. Suddenly, the words of my in-laws flashed through my mind. I have so many people supporting me. It's time to be brave. Feeling empowered by Kim's encouraging words, I returned home after lunch and immediately went into Nathan's study, pretending to organize while actually searching for the brochure. But the brochure, which should have been carelessly placed around a few days ago, was nowhere to be found. I needed to find it quickly before Nathan returned. In a panic, with almost a prayerful sentiment, I opened the drawers of his desk. There it was. Facing an unwelcome reality, my body stiffened. Yet, mustering strength, I took everything out of the drawer. The wedding venue brochure seen before, a casually folded piece of paper, and a small box. I didn't want to admit it, but I had to. As I thought this, tears naturally began to well up. Trembling, I opened the paper. It was a divorce form filled out with Nathan's name. The shock ran through my body as if I had been struck on the head. Tears fell uncontrollably, and I couldn't stop them. I cried for a while, clenching my teeth. Frustration and misery dominated my heart. Eventually, the tears stopped. I then picked up the box and opened it. I stared intently at the pair of engagement rings inside. Flipping through the brochure, I find a wedding estimate tucked in around the middle. As I absent-mindedly gaze at the detailed wedding plan, I realize Nathan is serious about this. What were my 3 years for? A sense of emptiness slowly wells up within me. Despite quitting the job I loved so much and enduring Nathan's verbal abuse while trying my best at household chores, the thought that Nathan would trample over my feelings and marry his lover is unforgivable. I will definitely get my revenge. A kind of anger I've never felt before rises within me. It's time to take action immediately. I promptly call Kim to ask for a favor, which she happily agrees to. Next, I fill out my name in the wife's section of the divorce form. Then, I quickly prepare my belongings and leave the house, heading straight to the municipal office to submit the divorce form. Just at the right moment, I receive a call from Kim. "Can you come to my workplace now? I'll be there soon, wait for me." My ex-husband and his lover must be looking forward to their wedding. I need to act quickly. Submitting the divorce form somehow lightens my heart. Why did I endure all this until now? I feel a bit foolish for the person I was just yesterday. Unable to suppress my buoyant mood, I head to the wedding venue where Kim is waiting, with a smirk on my face. There, the person in charge of my ex-husband's wedding and Kim are waiting. So I hand them the estimate I brought. "Please proceed with the wedding as per the schedule." "Certainly." Although the person in charge looks puzzled, I'm sure Kim will handle it well. Confident in this, I head straight home to my parents. My parents are very surprised to see me return home suddenly. But they understand everything once I explain the situation in detail. "Stay here as long as you need to calm down, Ashley." What on earth was Nathan thinking? I can't forgive him. My parents are very angry with Nathan, which makes me cry a little again. Their words make me feel like my 3 years of hard work have been slightly rewarded. That night, I also call my in-laws to report my divorce from Nathan. "I'm truly sorry for suddenly bringing this up after you both have been so kind to me all this time." I say this with a choked voice. And I can tell through the phone that my in-laws are feeling down as well. They apologize with heavy hearts. "We should have realized sooner, we are so sorry. We warned Nathan so many times. We are truly sorry for this outcome." According to my father-in-law, Nathan had been quite insolent and behaved badly even in front of them. He tried reprimanding and scolding him numerous times, but Nathan never listened. I never imagined he would behave like this in front of Ashley, too. I'm truly ashamed. My in-laws apologized so many times that I ended up feeling sorry for them. Feeling uncomfortable, I ended the call with my in-laws, and right after, Nathan called me. But I ignored the call. I know what Nathan would want. He's probably not calling because he's worried about me not being home, but because his dinner wasn't prepared. Thinking back, Nathan was always all about himself, which made me feel bad. I was really tired, so I fell asleep right away. The next morning, I'm startled by noise at the entrance and rush out. of my room to find Nathan arguing with my mother right at the doorstep. "Nathan, what are you doing to Mom?" I stepped in between my mother and Nathan and yelled at him loudly. In response, he glared at me, ready to lash out in anger. "Shut up, Ashley. What the hell do you think you're doing? Leaving without taking care of your husband, even though you're just a homemaker. Don't joke too much. The one joking here is you, Nathan. We are not husband and wife anymore." I stared straight into the raging face of Nathan and told him firmly in the coldest voice I could muster. Then, I thrust the bank book in Nathan's face. "Huh? What do you mean?" Nathan snatched the bank book from my hand with incredible force. Watching his face turn pale, I smirked inwardly. "What's this about? You used our joint savings without permission, didn't you? What did you spend it on? Explain. This is, well..." Nathan became flustered and hung his head in shame. The bank book I shoved in Nathan's face should have contained nearly $30,000. But now it's almost zero. No matter how he tried to excuse himself, there was no escape from this situation. And Nathan's face grew paler with sweat trickling down his pathetic face. I said in an even colder voice, enjoying his dismay. "Bought your mistress an expensive engagement ring, didn't you? But did you know?" Saying that, I threw a small box at Nathan. He weakly reached out for the box that bounced off the floor and picked it up slowly. I taunted him in a somewhat mocking tone. "Your mistress, was it Hannah? She must have been really desperate for money, huh? Despite the ring you gave her, it seems she sold it." When I found the engagement ring in Nathan's study, I inadvertently checked its details closely. The rings, which appeared to be a pair at first glance, felt oddly mismatched upon closer inspection. So, I went to a pawn shop nearby to have the rings appraised. It turned out that only the woman's ring was a cheap, commercially available product. Looking down on the now crumbled Nathan, I spoke in a low voice. "Thanks for preparing the divorce papers. I've already submitted them, so you can rest easy. And as for evidence of what you have done to me, I have plenty more. So brace yourself for the compensation claim." Nathan seemed deeply shaken by my words. A stark contrast to his demeanor when he barged into my parents' home. He slumped and exited the doorway. I muttered to his pitiful retreating figure, "This is just the beginning," and smiled softly. About a month later, I received a call from Nathan on my smartphone. Apparently, my second trap had been triggered. Feeling a bit excited, I answered Nathan's call. "Hey, Ashley. Explain this to me. You know something, don't you? Come to the wedding venue right now." "Understood." I replied with just one word and hung up on Nathan immediately. While feeling satisfied, my phone rang again, this time it was Kim. "Hello, Ashley, everything is going as planned over here. Thanks for your help. I'm on my way too." After making a few calls, I headed to the wedding venue. Upon arrival, I found the scene in chaos, with the mistress in a bridal gown wailing and Nathan in casual clothes, yelling at the venue staff. I confirmed that my plan had worked perfectly and chuckled to myself. Nathan wasn't supposed to know about the wedding until the day of the ceremony. After all, he never intended to marry his mistress. Despite all the detailed planning, Nathan didn't really care about his mistress. He always only thinks about himself. He probably lied to his mistress, saying he'd make reservations later. Which is why he brought the brochure home and left it carelessly. Such selfish behavior. But that's exactly why I was able to find and submit it. Thanks to that, I could prepare this wonderful revenge. Probably, Kim or the person in charge contacted the mistress. She, without verifying deeply, must have assumed Nathan had made the reservations and eagerly prepared for the wedding alone. But then, on the actual day of the ceremony, not a single person from Nathan's side, including his parents or relatives, showed up. Not even Nathan himself. This probably aroused suspicion in the mistress, leading her to call Nathan, which resulted in this chaos. The mistress's side of the attendees was whispering and murmuring among themselves, probably noticing something was amiss. Eventually, some of them surrounded the mistress and Nathan, voicing their complaints loudly. I stepped into the circle to explain the situation. Hello everyone, I am Ashley, Nathan's ex-wife. Emphasizing the word ex, I greeted them, causing everyone to gasp and turn their attention to me. Nathan glared at me furiously. Ashley, you submitted that estimate behind my back, didn't you? So you're angry and called me here over that? You've caused a huge mess with your unnecessary meddling. Nathan. Their shouts of anger overlapped with Nathan yelling at me. Yes, I was the one who called Nathan's parents here. They were dressed in formal attire, looking sternly at Nathan. Seeing the drastic change in his usually gentle parents, I was taken aback. Glancing at Nathan, I saw him collapsing in defeat, probably never having been scolded like this by his parents before. Nathan was trembling as he looked up at his parents. His father, red-faced with anger, grabbed Nathan by the collar and made him stand. I will not forgive you for today. You must take responsibility for your actions. Now, apologize and explain yourself to everyone here. His mother, too, was glaring at Nathan, demanding action. Watching this, I couldn't help but let out a faint smirk. The mistress was just staring blankly at the scene. I then handed Nathan an envelope while explaining to the mistress as if to show her. Here, this is the investigation result of Hannah's conduct. Turns out, she indeed has a significant amount of debt. Hearing this, a few women behind Hannah started whispering to each other. Didn't Hannah say she found a convenient wallet? She boasted about going to a nightclub in the afternoon recently. I pushed the envelope to Nathan and turned around. Now, Hannah's parents seemed to be saying something to her. Ignoring the cries that followed, I started walking away. Nathan, go through with the wedding properly with that young lady. After all, you betrayed Ashley, who devoted so much to you, for another woman. As a man, see this through to the end. Hearing his stern voice, I turned around one last time. Nathan was being dragged into the venue by his parents. Watching him go, I felt incredibly liberated. Later, I filed for damages against Nathan through a lawyer recommended by my in-laws. I heard Nathan ended up working day and night to pay for the compensation, wedding expenses, and Hannah's debts. Hannah, right after the wedding, cheated with another man, saddled Nathan with all her debts, and disappeared. Moreover, Nathan got disowned by his parents. In the end, Nathan was left with nothing but a huge debt. Hearing such rumors, I felt nothing. I just didn't want anything to do with Nathan ever again. I stayed with my parents for a while, then started working again at a restaurant, aiming for a new beginning. The manager from the restaurant where I worked before my marriage reached out, having heard about my divorce. They said they needed staff and invited me back. I gratefully accepted the offer. Once settled, I planned to start living on my own. Sharing this with Kim, she was thrilled for me. Blessed with friends and family, I realized how fortunate I was. Now, I live a calm and genuinely happy life, smiling from the heart.